Ohio State spring practice, got some quotes coming out of that. Ohio State is just fantastic at making their players, their coaches available. Love that about Ryan Day's program. And of course, you always got some guys who have a thing to quote on or two that we can mention here. Zack, we have a number of different directions here. We have offensive line quote, Jeremiah Smith talking about last year's team and what they need to improve on. Was pretty harsh in his take there, but definitely something that I think the rest of the team needs to hear. And then the Alabama defensive lineman James Smith takes a shot at Alabama and the SEC. Which of the three would you like to start with? Should we start with the Big Ten and Alabama stuff, or should we save that until the end?
Yes. No. Okay. That's the one. Absolutely.
That's the best one here. Okay, so should I start with his quote about Alabama or his quote about the Big Ten versus the SEC?
I think maybe start with Alabama.
Okay, because you were saying this a lot last season, and I think that a lot of other Ohio State fans were saying it, but it was definitely something that is probably getting some more talking points this season after what James Smith said. So James Smith asked about, getting to Ohio State, everything there. And he, of course, related it back to his time at Alabama. He said, kind of gave me the feeling back when I first visited as a freshman with Saban. There we go. The Nick Saban comparison to Ryan Day. Kind of felt like that, Smith said about Ohio State. I feel like the intensity is different. Everything is so intentional. Everything is already laid out. They have a new coaching staff at Bama. They're still trying to learn and stuff. Here, it's already stable. They already know. Zack, are we starting the Nick Saban comparisons for Ryan Day again?
So I'm not, because I think to get there, he needed to win the national championship this past year, and he didn't. So, but I'll say what I do think it means. Kalen DeBoer is way in over his head. And Ryan Day, like Ohio State's lucky to have Ryan Day. I know there are a few Ohio State fans out there that are like, fire Ryan Day. But
not anymore, right? There's nobody out there saying fire Ryan Day right now.
No, it's the Ohio State fan base. They're crazy.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I've not gotten that deep into the Ohio State fan base recently, apparently. Okay, go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
You don't have to go very deep. You really don't.
Just a few Twitter searches and you'll find them.
Yeah. Ryan Day fired. What? Yeah. I mean, again, it's a few outsiders. It's not like anything, but I honestly think the thing that it makes me think of though is that Alabama is like, I don't think Alabama will ever be Alabama, Nick Saban Alabama again. Like they might win a national championship at some point, and I think if Kalen DeBoer doesn't fix things, it's over. Because this is
8.5 this year, man.
Yeah, like they're trending downward, and it was already not looking good. And whereas I think for Ohio State, I've been on record, I think they're going 9-3. Quotes like this, and like things that you sent. I know it's spring, but it's making me reconsider my stupidity. So, but I think
Billy Tuesday said James Smith. Did I say the wrong name? I apologize. James Smith.
No, he was responding to your expert's foreshadowing.
Oh,
because that comment came before you revealed it.
Yeah, Billy knows his Buckeyes for sure, so he definitely was going to guess that. Yes, please do hit the like button, as Rudy Boxer pointed out. Appreciate you doing that, Rudy. We went to Disney and had a great time, but my family wants to go to Hawaii now, so I'm not as as confident that one might happen. But who knows? Maybe we'll get some crazy NIL coming through the YouTube channel that we can go to Hawaii this next year. Again, I'm not feeling super confident in that, but anything can happen. We'll see what happens. Okay, so the SEC quote, which by the way, I agree with you. I don't think that Ryan Day is Nick Saban, but I do think that Ryan Day is running a Nick Saban-esque program right now.
Yeah.
I think it's different with, the NFL coaches and stuff like that and everything. Yeah. So things are different, but I do think there is a level of professionalism and intentionality in the Ohio State program that was recognizable for Alabama that is becoming recognizable for Ohio State now. And I think that really draws in certain players and the kind of players that you want as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Agreed.
All right. Other quote here from James Smith on the difference between Ohio State and Alabama. He said the intensity is almost like everything is so much faster in the Big Ten and the SEC. We're big and kind of slower. Here, it's faster, more speed. We're trying to wear an opponent down. The intensity is different. Everything's so intentional. Now, Zach, I am having flashbacks to Ohio State, Florida. National championship game when the idea of SEC speed was out there and it was everywhere and it's been everywhere for all this time. Are we getting to Big Ten speed, Zach? Is James Smith starting the idea of Big Ten speed? I never thought we'd see the day.
I mean, have we seen the SEC the past 3 years?
You're not wrong.
They have not been impressive.
Yeah.
But
No,
listen,
no.
I got ripped by people when I said that Georgia was mid last year. And I will go back and say, listen, go back and watch Georgia the past couple years. That by mid, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but Georgia is not the Georgia of 2021 and 2022. Georgia looks like a really good, solid team with good athletes that cannot beat elite teams. Who does that remind you of? Big Ten teams in the 2010s, not named Ohio State. And sometimes named Ohio State. But like mostly like they don't look as fast. And I hate to say that, but like, do I think Georgia could still beat top tier teams in the Big Ten? Sure. I don't think it's the drop off is that big, but when I say they're mid, they are mid compared to what everybody thinks they are. Everybody thought Georgia was going to smash Ole Miss. Everybody thought Georgia was going to like plow their way into the national championship game. And they got beat, just like they got beat against Notre Dame and didn't look like they were the better team.
Well, and I think the other thing with this too is everybody's saying, oh, okay, well, all James Smith has seen is Ohio State. And well, yes, he is primarily going up against Ohio State here. James Smith has also seen multiple Big Ten teams. Michigan saw 2 years ago in the bowl game, right? Saw Ohio State this season being at camp and everything else. Last season, saw Indiana. Saw Indiana and saw how much speed and quickness and agility, everything that they had to offer. So it's not like James Smith is only talking about Ohio State here. While I do think that is primary, probably the primary talking point here and everything. He's seen other Big Ten teams, and he's probably talking about those other Big Ten teams in addition to Ohio State as well.
Yeah,
I would think.
Well, and to be fair, Ohio State and probably Oregon have the best rosters in the Big Ten. And that's not shade at Indiana, but like the reality is, I think you look at just total talent. And so you're seeing, like, I think the reality is like he's seeing the best of, like, at least talent wise, one of the top 3 rosters in the conference. And he's saying, this is different. And Alabama was supposedly a top 3 roster the past couple years in the SEC.
Well, I think, excuse me, it goes back to your talking point on like the coaching staff too, right? Because when you play when you are a better coach team, you play faster. Maybe Indiana didn't have, the fastest guys in the world last season. I don't think they did, from what we saw with everything. Obviously, D'Angelo Pons absolutely killed it with his speed and everything at the combine. But, when you have really good coaching, you know what your assignment is, you feel confident in who you are and everything, you just play faster. And I don't think there's anybody out there that wouldn't agree that Indiana last season wasn't a supremely well-coached team, knew what they were supposed to do, knew what their assignment was, and played confidently.
Yeah.
So I think that all plays into it as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. 2 more things. You want the Jeremiah Smith quote or the offensive line quote?
We should probably talk Jeremiah.
Okay.
Actually, no, why don't we keep Jeremiah for the end? Let's talk offensive line.
All right. So Ohio State returns 4 of their starting offensive linemen from last season. You might think, okay, well, just slide in a new right guard and you're good to go. But Ohio State, I'm trying to find the quote here. Normally it highlights itself. But Ohio State, they probably not going to just go straight in with a new right guard. Have some opportunity for flexibility here with the offensive line. They had left tackle Austin Seierveld last year who's returning. He could possibly kick into a guard spot. Philip Daniels, who started at right tackle, could also possibly kick in because a lot of talk about a guy who could get his first year starting for the Buckeyes named Ian Moore. Luke Montgomery, who was a bit of a breakout player for Ohio State's offensive line last year, he had this to say about Ian Moore. He said, he's a dude, the God-gifted talent that he's got. He's very explosive, good length, and uses his hands really well. Sky's the limit for him. We all think he'll be a first rounder by the time he's done here. Zach, could Ohio State have a first rounder and Ian Moore starting at left tackle for them this next season?
If they do, blow my prediction out of the water. Because I think
your 9-3 prediction, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, my 9-3 prediction. Yeah. Because if this offensive line has a legitimate first round pick at tackle, and what I would say is move Seierveld back inside, because I think he's a better guard than he is a tackle. And I know Philip Daniels
inside. Might move Daniels inside.
Yeah, and then maybe move Seierveld to right tackle.
Yeah.
I like both of those moves, those ideas.
Neither's a bad move. Yeah.
Yeah, like both tackles currently, like Seierveld really did a good job, but he's not a tackle. And Philip Daniels, I think, really struggled when the competition ramped up. So it would be nice to find ways to guard them a little bit. Ian Moore, the little bit he played against Miami was really good. He played against Purdue, was really good. And listen, Luke Montgomery, I would argue, is probably their best offensive lineman, just on an overall talent standpoint. And he's saying that Ian Moore's a potential first rounder. I think that's high praise, and we should be listening.
Well, and Ohio State has done this before, right? Where in the world of college football now, where people say you can't stack first-round talent on your two deep, Ohio State had a first-round top 5 pick at linebacker 2 seasons ago, sitting on the bench behind a fifth-round linebacker, and Cody Simon comes out this season, and he's immediately, the player that every NFL GM is salivating over, and Arvell Reese. So that doesn't mean that they're going to have just first rounders galore all over the place, but it does mean that it is not unprecedented to think that Ohio State may have had a future first round left tackle sitting on their bench last season, and they were just giving him the season to say, all right, he's going to come in and do well for us eventually. We just need to give him time.
Yeah.
So, all right, last one here, and Jeremiah Smith, he always got a good quote for us, and this time he had a good quote talking about last season. So it was no secret last season Ohio State was not as explosive in their offense as people wanted them to be, and Jeremiah Smith thinks he may have found the reason why. He said, I think we were like one of the worst teams in yards after the catch last year. We really had no guys that had juice when they had the ball in their hands. So that's something we've been working on as a receiver group this year. Of course, new wide receiver coach Cortez Hankton there with the Buckeyes, Brian Hartline down to South Florida down there, new receivers, first time ever they've gotten receivers out of the transfer portal, Kyle Parker, Devin McEwen. I think those are the only 2 guys that they got out of the portal. So very interesting stuff here for the Buckeyes to look at, possibly getting some more explosiveness, some more juice in their players, as Jeremiah Smith puts it. Zach, what are your thoughts on what Jeremiah Smith had to say?
My first thought was Carnell's going to come and be like, what the heck, guys? Why are you talking bad about me?
Well, in Carnell's defense, he was mainly catching balls way down the field when he only had about 5 to 10 yards to run after he caught it. So
it's true.
Or he's catching it in the end zone. So
that
does affect your yak.
Yeah, he doesn't need to come back. He's going to be like a top 10 pick and have millions of dollars. So Carnell's great. Yeah. I think it's similar to Kurt Cignetti calling out Nick Marsh in some ways, in that the standard is the standard. So you were talking about that before in the last segment. And I think it speaks to Jeremiah Smith's drive, but also you heard Brandon Ennis talking about it earlier this season or earlier this offseason, where he's like, I want to get faster. I want to get more explosive. And then he's like, I want to become a first round pick, which I'm like, good luck, buddy, man. But if that's what they're working on, right? Like we know that they can run routes, and that was, I think, Hartline's specialty, running routes, getting separation, but actually working on the next step of explosiveness and really drilling that. I think that can make this offense even more dangerous because before, to your point, what was so dangerous about Ohio State's offense was the reality that Carnell Tate could get 10 yards of separation in a hurry, and Saban's going to find you if you do that. Same thing with Jeremiah Smith. But if you got a contested catch, it was a contested catch, and then you're down. If they can find ways to make those 15, 20-yard catches into touchdown runs, that is, I think, a next level gear for this team if they can do that.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to the Ohio State team that players on the Ohio State receiving corps are commenting on this as well, right? Like you talked about Brandon Inniss commenting on this and other stuff. So I don't think this is something that only Jeremiah Smith has seen or has heard about or is talking about. Sounds like this is something that the entire wide receiver room is definitely in on and wanting to improve on as well. So good stuff here. All right, anything else Ohio State wise before we finish it up here, Zach?
No. I am, I'll be honest, I'm a little distracted right now. My wife is making homemade banana bread, and I smell it all the way up here in my office, and it's hard to pay attention.
I think Mello makes a good point here. Maybe we'll see more hitches and slants this season. I do think that's a big factor too. It seemed like last season it was either you're running away from the line of scrimmage or you were kind of running back to the line of scrimmage. I think Doug was the one that pointed that out. So making more of an effort to put the players in better situation to catch the ball on the run and get some yak is good stuff there.
Yeah.
What's got you tickled?
Well, Max said, what does Saban look like? And I think he means like, what does he look like as a passer? And Indiana says he's still white and skinny.
Well, that is true. That is true.
It's fair.
He's bulked up a little this offseason, I think. Did you see it? Did you see his press conference? He looked a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit
got
bulkier.
a little bit of a stash. Yeah.
Yeah. He had some facial hair.
He wants to be able to run a little bit, which is good.
There you go.
But
there you go.
I don't know if I want him running for 500 yards though, but
no, I don't think that's the goal. I don't think that's the goal.
No.
So,
dude, I'm sorry. So